Receiving the content. Okay. Let me just make sure I can hear myself. Are we going? Yes. Okay. All right then. Welcome back, everyone, to the Barely News Crew. I'm your host here, as always, Alexis, and this will be our second or official live stream for the Barely News Crew. I'm going to talk to you about some award junkets that announced their nominees this week, which are very important to the overall Academy Awards, which is known as the Oscars, that will be happening either in February or March, where they do their award show. And the two ones that I am talking about are the Screen Actors Guild, which is known as SAG, as well as the Golden Globe Awards. Um, so why don't we just start digging into this, because these are very important precursors to what the Oscars are going to be nominating and who ultimately will be winning the award for those particular categories. All I have to say right now, as my first initial impressions, is I'm somewhat taken aback by the absolute amount of new players that I didn't see coming. Now, I haven't been keeping too much in contact with how the Oscar race is building up, but as far as I understand it, it's becoming increasingly more complicated by the hour. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the first of the Screen Actors Guild Award nominations, which apparently they felt so compelled to be the first to announce their nominees. And, well, I'm just going to go ahead and start listing them off to see what we are. So we're going to start off with their version of Best Picture, which is they nominated 5 films, which are Beasts of No Nation, which is currently streaming on Netflix, The Big Short, Spotlight, Straight Outta Compton, and Trumbo. Now, right off the bat, again, aside from perhaps Spotlight and The Big Short, the other three are just, they stun me, because I didn't think Trumbo, which is the new Bryan Cranston film, would have that kind of momentum. And it's kind of weird, because as I'm saying this to you on the website, I'm seeing all this promotional advertisement for Trumbo, so it may have more legs than we had initially thought for it to have. The Beasts of No Nation is the Idris Elba movie, which is on Netflix. And I heard great things out of Straight Outta Compton, so it's not an entirely surprising thing. But as far as I am concerned, and you can put me on the record right now, this is Spotlights to lose, simply because of the ensemble cast. Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Mark Ruffalo, Liev Schreiber, Stanley Tucci. This just goes on and on and on. So it's going to be a walk in the park for Spotlight. Though I am surprised there weren't some other films that were nominated, less such as The Revenant or Joy, The Martian. It's really interesting what we have so far. So off the bat, we're already getting some interesting results. Then we get into Best Actor in a Leading Role. Bryan Cranston for Trumbo. Not a complete shocker, but still, considering that Best Actor is just a hyped up category. Johnny Depp for Black Mass. I'm really glad he got into that. Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant. Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs. And Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl. Right here, that's pretty much who I expected to be, aside from maybe Bryan Cranston. You have to keep in mind that in this category, who was also in consideration was Will Smith for Concussion, Tom Hanks for Bridge of Spies, Michael Caine, Ian McKellen. There was just, and Matt Damon for The Martian. So Best Actor is always a stacked up year. So the SAG here, I think that they got it right for the most part. Then they have the Best Actress. Kate Blanchett for Carol, no brainer. Brie Larson for Room. Here, Saoirse Ronan for Brooklyn, they're all expected. There were some surprises with Helen Mirren and Sarah Silverman. I wouldn't think those two would be in the overall Oscar race, but the other three for sure. And I do have to take this time to probably explain, because it's very confusing how they choose to run things sometimes. The agents are in charge for submitting their actors into what categories there will be as for a different award show. So, for example, you may see Brie Larson here for lead, but at the Academy Awards, she may ultimately be submitted for supporting. So that's just a little bit of that whole Oscar political stuff that goes on. I know it's rather complicated. Um, Best actor in a supporting role, basically. Surprise here for Christian Bale, The Big Short. They really must have liked him in that movie. Idris Elba for Beasts of No Nation. Deservedly so for Mark Rylance of Bridge of Spies, and not surprised there. Michael Shannon for 99 Homes. I didn't even see that coming. And Jacob Tremblay for Room. Uh, Again, if we have to talk about people who are not in this category, well, there's Mark Ruffalo and Michael Keaton from Spotlight. There's Robert De Niro and Bradley Cooper from Joy. There's also Sylvester Stallone from Creed. So Tom Hardy from The Revenant. Paul Dano from Love and Mercy. So you can already see how trippy the SAGs, in my view, are kind of deciding to go with. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a supporting role. Rooney Mara in Carol. Rachel McAdams in Spotlight. Helen Mirren from Trumbo. You see, that's just Trumbo was getting a lot of love from the Screen Actors Guild. Alicia Vikander by the Danish Girl, and Kate Winslet in Steve Jobs. You notice that I'm not going point by point who I'm predicting yet. I'm not going to do any predictions right now. I'm just giving you my initial impressions as to what I thought of these nominees and how they're stacking up so far. Ultimately, from what I am hearing, it's the best supporting actress is going to be somewhat of a race. One notable snub here was I want to say Jennifer Jason Leigh or whatever her name was from The Hateful Eight. She is someone who people loved her in that movie, so she was obviously not in this category. Ultimately, though, here Rooney Mara or Alicia Vikander would be probably the two who would duke it out. Although personally, I really loved Kate Winslet and Steve Jobs. But you can already see some more, like, okay, Helen Mirren is in there. But above all, this category was pretty by the numbers. So right now, that's as far as the movies are concerned. I'll get to TV in a bit, but let me jump over to the Golden Globes just so we can get a bit of consistency built here as far as we're talking about the Oscar season for the films in particular. Though people should be aware that the Golden Globes and the SAGs, they also have a TV branch in their section, so they also have TV nominations, of which I'll get to in a bit. So here we are. Oh, by the way, please watch the Golden Globes. I can already tell you it's going to be the best show of the year. The Golden Globes are my absolute favorite award show, and with Ricky Gervais back as the host, well, you can already tell what's going to happen. So I can't wait for that award show. All right, so here again, I'm gonna start off with the best motion picture drama, and there's going to be different films in this one for the most part, except for one from the Screen Actors Guild. And we do have to keep in mind that the Golden Globes are particular because they separate their films by genre. So you have yeah. So you have drama, and then you also have comedy or musical. And well, some of these may not be true comedy or musicals or dramas, but you'll understand as soon as I list out these nominees. So let's start off with Best Motion Picture in a Drama: Carol, Mad Max Fury Road, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight. Obviously, as you have been hearing me say, and a lot of other insiders say, that Spotlight is pretty much at this point the front runner. That isn't to say that someone couldn't get in there and be the new frontrunner. But as far as everyone is concerned right now, Spotlight is in a comfortable position to be the frontrunner. The Revenant and Carol and Room aren't that big of a surprise. I'm surprised. Well, I guess they put it in the other category. Yeah, we'll get to that right now. Mad Max Fury Road. That was a bit of a shocker. People love that movie. I love that movie. It's a great film. But you have to consider the fact that this is not your typical film that people who represent these award shows like all that much, and it'll be really interesting how this is going to fare going forward. So I'm happy for Mad Max. I think it's a well-deserved nomination, but ultimately, though, Spotlight seems to be winning so far. And then there's the other Best Motion Picture category for comedy or musical: The Big Short, Joy, The Martian, Spy, and Trainwreck. As far as I'm concerned here, I think this is a walk in the park for The Martian as well. The Martian was actually one of the best films of the whole year, and a huge blockbuster at that. So we have that going on. Best Director in a Motion Picture. Now, some categories are split by genre and some are not, so it may be a little bit inconsistent, but this is how they choose to do this. Best Director, Todd Haynes for Carol. Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu for The Revenant. Tom McCarthy for Spotlight, George Miller for Mad Max Fury Road, and Ridley Scott for The Martian. Now, there are reasonable arguments that almost, or at the very least, 4 of the 5 here have a legitimate chance of winning. Alejandro Gianarritu was last year's best director and picture winner with Birdman. And from what I hear of The Revenant, and I haven't had the chance to see a lot of these movies because I'm not privileged to have a screener sent out to me, he said with no contempt whatsoever. So I can only judge by what I am told by the people on the ground. And The Revenant, from what I hear, is a marvelously directed film. Also is Spotlight and Mad Max and The Martian. I've seen Mad Max and The Martian. I also hear that Ridley Scott is really being pushed as it's his time person this year, and most people are telling me that Ridley Scott is a shoo-in for Best Director simply because, the name recognition that he has, and I don't believe he's won an Academy Award before. So, and The Martian's a great film, easily his best film in, from what I hear, a decade. So, it's a pretty interesting category right there. Again, we're going to get to Best Actor in the Motion Picture Drama, and once again, Bryan Cranston just seemingly snuck in here with Trumbo. So we're starting to see a pattern to the point where he has broken into SAG and he's broken into Golden Globes, and it's kind of painting the picture that Bryan Cranston is essentially a shoo-in for the Academy Award nomination list, which is, at the very least, somewhat striking, because no one was really going for him. Although I'm happy for him, he's a great actor. Also in that category, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant, Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, Eddie Redmayne, The Danish Girl, and Will Smith, Concussion. I'm gonna just I'm have a little issue with Johnny Depp not being in this category. I understand people didn't love the movie. I liked the movie a lot, but what I fell in love with was the overall performance by Johnny Depp, and I really do think he is a contender, not to be nominated, but to win. So this was somewhat striking to me, especially considering this is the Golden Globe Awards and they love inviting well-known people to their shows. So that was somewhat interesting. But ultimately here, people are trying to paint the picture that it's Leo's turn. Well, I have a theory. I don't think you can do 2 a year. And what I mean by that, 2, it's his turns a year. So you have the same thing going on with Ridley Scott in the direction category, but you also have a similar story painting with Leo in the Best Actor race. And I am not sure if they both can be sustained throughout the entire award season, if I'm being clear by that. And Leo has been continuously snubbed again and again and again. It seems as if Leo has a good chance of sweeping the entire season. By all means, he's a frontrunner. But they love Eddie Redmayne. I love Eddie Redmayne. And the Danish Girl in particular is a film the Academy Awards love. It's that type of film that they just eat up, if you know what I mean. So, and I think it's clear they like Eddie more than Leo. So I would just say keep an eye out. There may be an upset, but so far Leo seems to be leading. Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama, Cate Blanchett again for Carol, Brie Larson again for Room, Rooney Mara for Carol. You'll see how it's Rooney Mara was in supporting in the SAGs, and now she's in lead in the Golden Globes. So you can see it's already becoming a bit annoying, I would say. Saoirse Ronan for Brooklyn, and Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl. Again, she was in supporting, now she's in lead in this one, so yeah, it's a bit interesting to keep up with how they're choosing to submit to either lead or supporting. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical, Christian Bale for The Big Short, Steve Carell for The Big Short, Matt Damon, The Martian, Al Pacino, Danny Collins, and Mark Ruffalo. I would say that Matt Damon would be first place right now to win this particular award because I particularly loved Matt Damon in this film. In a lot of ways, he really did make up the movie. I would definitely say it goes to him, but I wouldn't count out Christian Bale. He seems to be having somewhat of a momentum if you consider the nomination he had for SAG, which again was for leading, supporting, not for leading. So yeah, it's getting annoying already by just me saying these things. Best Actress in a Motion Picture Comedy, Jennifer Lawrence for Joy. Melissa McCarthy for Spy, well deserved. Amy Schumer for Trainwreck, Maggie Smith for The Lady in the Van, and Lily Tomlin for Grandma. Honestly, here, the only real person who has a chance of being the nominee at the Academy Awards, because the Academy Awards don't split up their awards by genre, their acting awards, I would say, or all of them. Jennifer Lawrence would be the only one who would be in consideration. And I think it's a walk in the park for her. It's a cinch. I mean, if they want to be risque, I would say maybe Amy Schumer. Um, Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture, Paul Dano, Love and Mercy. Idris Elba, Beasts of No Nation. Mark Rylance, Bridge of Spies. Michael Shannon, 99 Homes. And Sylvester Stallone in Creed. Happy for Sylvester Stallone, but if you noticed, Idris, Mark, and Michael were also in the SAG nominees category for this particular one. And these three haven't really been on the radar. So, again, no Michael Keaton, no Mark Ruffalo, no De Niro, no Hardy, no Bradley Cooper. And I interesting though. I mean, happy for these guys, but it's somewhat interesting at the very least. Supporting actress in a motion picture, Jane Fonda, Jennifer Jason Leigh, I told you, The Hateful Eight, Helen Mirren again for Trumbo. Alicia Vikander was nominated again, not for The Danish Girl, but for Ex Machina. And Kate Winslet for Steve Jobs. Yeah. Best Screenplay, Room, Spotlight, The Big Short, Steve Jobs, Hateful Eight. Best Score, Carol, The Danish Girl, Hateful Eight, Steve Jobs, The Revenant. Best Original Song, Love Me Like You Do by 50 Shades of Grey. One Kind of Love from Love and Mercy. See You Again from Furious 7. Simple Song Number 3 from Youth. And Writings on the Wall for Spectre. Spectre, come on. That was a great song. Animated Feature Film, Inside Out, no questions asked. Best Motion Picture in Foreign Language Film. I'm sorry, I can't comment on that. I don't watch any foreign language films. So that's what you have so far in terms of the film nominees, okay? It's, first of all, my initial impressions, I'm somewhat underwhelmed by the list of movies. I mean, I'm all for them going for small independent films. Of course, please, by all means, do that. But so Joy, The Revenant, The Martian, and a Spotlight for sure were in contention. Joy has fallen a bit back. Carol is really just collecting on these nominees. Also Room. And it's really interesting to see what... I'm most curious to see what they're going to nominate. The Academy Awards, I would say. If they're going to nominate Inside Out, which I think it should be nominated. It's one of the best films of the year. It's definitely Pixar's best in a long, long time. But I'm really curious to see what film they're going to designate as their blockbuster, because they always like to put one film in their Best Picture list that was a well-received and a box office hit. Now, The Martian, with all, that pretty much just clears that. But I personally would love to see maybe a Mad Max or a Straight Outta Compton, and then, God willing, maybe a Star Wars The Force Awakens, if it's good, in that category. So, yeah. So right now, this is how the Oscar race is setting up to be. Right now, I would say I'm underwhelmed with a lot of the nominees, but I'm very interested. And again, I haven't seen these films. I haven't been privileged enough to be sent screeners. So, I mean, if anybody has the movies, I mean, please, I'm available. Go ahead, send them to me. I won't spoil anything. But I have to see a lot of these films first before I can make an actual judgment on their performances, but I'm only reporting on what I know, my sources on the ground. And my sources are in the ground. You can find them, please. Go ahead and go on Gold Derby. They are amazing. They have a pretty good conscience as to how it's shaping up to be as far as it's going this year. Okay. So, we're less than a week away from Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is guaranteed to be one of the biggest movie experiences of all time. I do want to say, for those of you who have watched Billy News Crew, or for those of us who are just Star Wars fans, have a good time. Enjoy yourselves. Have the time of your lives. This is an event in cinema that essentially everyone has been waiting for, and one that we may not see in our lives again. So get out there, stay safe, have fun, and may the force be with you. And please keep on watching Barely News Crew. And if you want any more of these impromptu discussions on various topics, please let us know on Barely News Crew, the place for all things movie news and reviews. Bye-bye.